And welcome back. It is good to see you all. Let me make sure I've got all my stuff organized here. I think I've got it. Yeah, it all looks good. All right, welcome back. Happy March, end of March, towards the end of March. It's good to see everybody. Let's just jump into it. I've got a list of questions here, and let's see what we come up with. Okay, first question comes from Michael Wilding. What would I need to put in place to help prevent infringement of my intellectual property from a new competitor on the market? I own a ticketing platform for selling event tickets. I'm looking to get my website reprogrammed with new programming language. So here's the thing about IP. IP can be very expensive to try to keep track of. And at the end of the day, unless you're doing something that is really unique and really revolutionary, it's probably not worth the effort, because whatever you're doing is I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure, but 9 times out of 10, the best way to protect your IP is to build a really good brand, to get people utilizing it, and build kind of the social or rather what do you call it? Get people using it, right? The create network effect. If you have a network effect on your with your product where people actually use it and they gain value from having other people using it too, that's the best way to protect your IP. Because people want to use your platform versus somebody else's. So being successful is the best protection against your IP, unless, of course, you actually have some sort of really special secret sauce. I'm not saying you don't have that, but I would guess that you don't have that. If you, I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine what you've done on the ticketing side of things that is from a underlying mechanical process that is truly IP kind of stuff. But as it relates to that, there are some things that you can do to protect against copyright infringement and all that sort of stuff. There are kind of poor man ways of doing that. One way to do that is to publish it on the blockchain. Might be one way to do it. So that you can prove that you had it and you did it first. Not publish it so that it's available to people, but I don't know. I hear about people encrypting stuff so that they post it encrypted on the blockchain, and then if anyone ever asks, "Hey, when did you produce this thing? And did you do this first?" You can go back to it and then unencrypt it and show it to people and say, "Oh, hey, look, I had this before anybody else." That's one way. Another, even less technologically advanced way is to, whenever you produce any type of product that's written, and if you're talking a ticketing platform, I don't know how much code you're talking about, but if I've heard people mail stuff to themselves and don't open it, so it has a postmark on it. That's kind of a cheap way to do it too. Or of course you could just hire an attorney and deal with all that stuff. But that, again, that's very expensive and may or may not be worth the trouble. Don't be afraid to share and again, from a technology perspective, if you really got something unique that's not easily replicatable, or that people wouldn't just come up with it on their own, then that's a different story. But this is more of a general concept around don't be afraid to share your thoughts with what you're trying to do in your business with other people, because you're afraid they're going to steal it. I see that a lot, where entrepreneurs have an idea and they're afraid to talk about it with anybody because they're afraid that people are going to steal their idea. Well, ideas are great, but if nobody uses it, who cares, right? So it all becomes execution and getting people to use your whatever it is. I actually knew a guy in Silicon Valley who had a really cool patented utility patent, best of the best patent that he has this thing. It does this stuff. And what it did was it allowed you to transmit data through screens. So you could point a camera at a screen and actually transmit a file without Wi-Fi, without any other internet or anything, from the screen. Camera looks at the screen and pulls a file out of it. So you could put it on a jumbotron and everyone could point their cameras and they could actually download a file just by pointing it there. Really neat stuff. Never made a dime with it. Nobody cared. Never got anywhere with it. So the point is it really does come down to, will people actually use it or not? So put as much of your attention on that as possible, and that's best way to, blow out the competitors and other people. Okay, next question. Bob Guerrera. What is a good way to pre-launch a product and build an initial audience or email list? I want to test the demand for a new consumer product before investing time and money into creating it. My plan is to send traffic to a landing page with a buy now button. If a visitor clicks buy now, I am going to give a message that says this product will be available soon. Add your email below to the first in line to order when it's available. Do you believe this is an effective approach to test the market? If I collect enough emails, would that be a strong buying indicator? The product I am considering creating will track data while playing the game beer pong. The tracking device would then send data to the cloud and players could view their stats and leaderboards from the website. I expect the retail price to be $200 to $300. Yeah, absolutely, Bob. That's a great point. Test the market before you spend all kinds of time and money building stuff. That's where a lot of people go wrong, is they, including myself, they spend a lot of time, effort, and money, and then when they release it to the market, it turns out nobody wants it, or nobody wants it in the form that you made it. So in this particular case, I think that's a good deal. If you've got the price on there, and you've got to make it look like a real thing, I tell people to do that all the time. Make a landing page, make it look like a real thing, pretend that it actually exists, act like it really exists, and when people get all the way up to the edge there, that's when you say, actually, it's not available quite yet. Because you know what market does that really, really well and has done that and made people billions of dollars is the as seen on TV market. That's why, do you ever wonder why it takes 6 to 8 weeks when you order something from one of those as seen on TV infomercials? I don't know if they do it anymore, but it used to be all the thing. The reason it took 6 to 8 weeks is because none of that stuff existed. They built a prototype, they did the commercial, and it was all based on a prototype that didn't exist yet. They could manufacture it, they knew how they would, but unless they got enough orders, they just wouldn't produce the thing. So I think that's a great recommendation for anybody building a business is start selling and start marketing as soon as possible, because you might need to tweak what your offering is. You might need to tweak who your audience is. And if you don't do that immediately, you're going to be disappointed because you went down one track and it turned out that the right track was 3 or 4 steps over. So, yeah, great idea. I think that would be very encouraging if you got a bunch of people to give you their email address and prep for a purchase. Great way to test it. Absolutely. Samuel Virulent. Can a Canadian citizen work as a contractor for an LLC established in the U.S., and what are the tax implications? Hi, mentors. I am a Canadian business owner in photography and artworks that wants to work down in the U.S. as an identified lots of great prospects in Miami, New York. The main issue I'm trying to figure out is, as a Canadian citizen, I can't work in the U.S. without a visa. However, a friend of mine has an LLC established in the U.S., and wants to hire me as a contractor in order to expedite the process for me to move into the U.S. I'm trying to figure out my possibilities to be physically more present in the U.S. for my work. Thank you for your time and appreciate all your help. Awesome, Samuel. So I'm not an expert on this by any means, but I have a company that is based in the U.S., but my 3 business partners are all in Vancouver, Canada, and are Canadian citizens. So, and a lot of our other people that we hire are also Canadian, being paid out of the U.S. company. So I don't know what it means in terms of immigrating into the U.S., like in terms of being here, because all of us work mostly remotely. They're up in Canada, I'm down here. Everyone's kind of spread out. So I don't know when you actually physically come into the U.S., I don't know how that works. But as far as paying goes, yes, they issue invoices as contractors to the U.S. company, and then the U.S. company pays them just like they would a 1099 employee. A 1099 employee in the U.S. is a contractor. There's a different form, I believe, that our accountant fills out for the Canadian contractors. But that does seem to work. So I believe what you're planning does make some sense. Now, on your side of the equation, you end up still having to pay all your regular taxes because I understand you guys, I think, have a VAT tax that has to get applied and like some other stuff too because you guys pay a lot of taxes up there. But the way that we've been doing it with our group, it does seem to work the way that you're describing it in how you want to do it. So I think that's right. I'm not a tax professional, so if you want to really know, you need to talk to somebody else. But I think that's a pretty good idea to try something like that. Yeah, and also, so I don't know how that works when you come into the U.S. and actually physically do the work here. I don't know if there's other elements to that, but if you were working remotely the way that we are, that does work. Okay, next and final question. This is Melinda Clark. Do I need to form different companies for different product lines or services? I am a nurse practitioner. I created my healthcare practice about 6 months ago, and so far have been doing services that are primarily insurance-based, muscle joint injections, and also dabbled in COVID testing treatment. I want to add more services that will be primarily cash-based, vitamin infusion, regenerative therapies, medical weight loss, and possibly men's health. I'm having a hard time forming a branding strategy that encompasses both, and I believe the buyer personas on each service line vary greatly. Should I form a separate business entity, or is there a way to keep it all in one? I don't want to stop the service I provide now to shift its focus, but I want to expand to these other services. From what I see, the pros are more specific marketing, more defined focus practices. The cons, less cost effective to start, build, and market 2 companies versus 1. Okay, yeah, so you could do it either way. You can build additional brands under your one company, and you can just you could either use the same name, and then when you invoice people and you send them different places, you could just kind of use that same name, kind of a variation of. Or you could also file a DBA, which is basically your company, LLC, doing business as some other name, which is a way to kind of allow people to actually just only see that trade name and actually interact with that trade name as if it was directly, the LLC that they were interacting with themselves. So from a branding perspective, that's really all you have to do. You could just file a bunch of DBAs that say, hey, I'm doing business as this brand name, this brand name, this brand name, and you could have all different brands, and no one will be the wiser that you're one company, right? With all these other things connected to it. The thing you'll want to keep in mind when you do that is what is the so from an accounting perspective and everything, that would be the easiest thing to do because you have one company, maybe some different lines of revenue and different lines of expenses, but it's all one thing. So that keeps it straightforward. Now, if you want to have different companies, the one reason that you would want to do that is if the kind of liability structure of one brand is significantly more or maybe different than one of the other brands. So as such, let's say in one case, you have a high chance of getting sued or having some like legal issue, and in the other case you don't. Well, maybe in that case, you might want to separate the 2 brands into 2 separate LLCs, 2 separate operating companies, in case one of the companies gets into trouble for some reason, and then that means that the other company is insulated from that liability. So that would be probably one reason to separate the 2. My general feeling is if they're kind of in the same sphere and you're not going to bring on like different investors or something in different categories, like whatever, then putting it all under one umbrella is probably the easiest thing to do, would be my guess. But I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know the specifics of your situation, but just kind of a little bit of what I know. putting it all underneath and just doing a DBA with different brands is probably easy enough. Okay, that is it. That's all I've got for us today. Thank you for listening to me. I hope you had a good month since I saw you last. I will see you again next month, and let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Reach out and say hello. Okay, that's it. Bye.